Hello everybody, so today I am doing a video on the sound system that you get with this car. This is the 2020 Alfa Romeo Giulia TI Sport. I got the Q2, which is a rear-wheel drive, and I did upgrade to the Harman Kardon system. Now this car, stock, comes with a 6-speaker AM/FM radio. But with the upgrade, I'm going to explain what you get, how many speakers, where the sub is, and what you get in the infotainment system with that upgrade. Before I get into the sound system, I want to just talk again about the sports pack I got. Because you can get a TI, you can get the bass, you can get them in a sport. And you get a lot of these awesome features like the rear diffuser and the larger sports tires. But when you want to upgrade a sound system, that is entirely different. Much like a lot of options that you have to pay for, this one is fairly expensive. So let's talk about what you get. So in the doors, on a regular base car without the upgrade, you're going to get these larger guys at the bottom. Those are mid-range. In this car, you get 2 in the front doors. You get 2 in the back doors, being 4 now. And in the back behind the headrest, you get an additional 2. So 1, 2. Now that adds up to 6 mid-range speakers, and that is what you get in a base car. When you upgrade to the Harman Kardon, you get a bit more. In fact, you get twice as much stuff. In the doors, with this badge, you get tweeters. So you get 2 tweeters in the front. 1, 2, okay. Have an additional 2 tweeters in the door, okay, in the back. And this is what everybody really wants. In the middle here is another speaker. That speaker is the sub. It's not a particularly large sub, and I'll talk about that in a second, but it is a sub nonetheless. And in fact, I'm curious if I could ever upgrade and actually just remove this and replace it with a much stronger one. But she is quite strong, and I'm going to show you that in a sec. If you're wondering where the amp is, it lives down here on the side panel. Okay, so if I remove this side panel, the ampage there, I could even research and find out the max power I can get out of it, because if I ever wanted to switch this up. Another thing is, if you ever do switch up your subs, sometimes you need to get a little bit of caulking or insulation in here. You can get that expanding foam insulation. It makes a mess, you got to be careful, but that way you'll lose the rattle. You can also see I have upgraded my little lights here. In another video I did that. But when I bought this car, there was something that really drew me towards it more than any other car. The Mazda actually shares this as well, and I think it's great. And that is the location of the volume control. You know, not very many car manufacturers do this. It's right here. It allows you to have your hand in this area while you're driving, and it just gives you so much control. Unlike the Mazda, I can actually move my tracks forward and backwards and all that. Okay, I can mute it with a push, and of course I can use the control. Now, what I love about this is that I don't need to stretch forward, so I can sit comfortably in my sports seat with my hands, because I got the steering wheel right here. It's all perfect, and my other hand can sit right here, and I don't need to have to lean forward to change the track. And I wanted a Jaguar XE, and I looked at those for about a year, but you know, their actual volume control wasn't here. That's where their start-stop button was. It was over here. Now, of course, everyone's going to say, well, you got the controls right here, and that's true. But while you have your right hand here and maybe your left hand here, okay, it's just nice to have the volume where your hand already is. Now, one thing that I find interesting, and I don't know why car manufacturers do this, is they put the volume and the track and all that, those controls here. I think they should be here because it's further away from the sound and all that there. In most cases, your hand's already committed to here. If you're going to use your left hand and you want to do the controls, I would assume they'd want it here. But I've never really understood why they do that. But let's get right into the infotainment system and kind of give everyone here an idea of what we're looking at. So, regardless if you had the base or the upgraded Harman Kardon, you would get the same basically controls here. So if we go into, let's say, all the way into settings, and I wanted to go down into the infotainment, that's where I'm going to find the controls to the radio. So I'm just kind of scrolling around, playing around here. The audio is there too. Now, the audio is actually where you're going to find the controls to what we want. Now, if I did the different bass and scroll down all the way, it would be the same controls regardless if I had an actual sub or if I had, no tweeters and this and that. It doesn't actually make any difference in these controls. But obviously, you're going to get a way different sound with the different, the additional 6 speakers and the subs and the tweeters. So what do I recommend? I recommend the mid a little bit further up, okay? And of course, you got to have that bass not all the way up, but just 1 or 2 down, because it does, depending on the songs, it kind of drowns things out. And I always have my treble pretty maxed out. So the balance and the fade, for someone who doesn't have a car full of people, I usually leave this guy a little bit further in the back because I'm already sitting in the front, and you get the speakers right by your head, so you kind of want some of that bass and the control, or the speaker output out from the back. So that's kind of what I usually do. The other thing that I wanted to talk about real quick is the surround sound. You would not have this option in a bass, no, but because we have the addition of the tweeter here, okay, it allows us to actually have a complete surround sound experience. And that's a very cool option to have. Okay, now the aux I don't really use. For me, what I've done is I have a USB here. Okay, there is the auxiliary here, but I can either use a USB and put all my tracks there, or I can just run it off the Bluetooth off my phone. And I will tell you, the Bluetooth in this car is excellent. There is no lag, it's very sharp, and it connects quickly. So I'm very happy with that. I've owned some BMWs and other cars, from 2008 or 7, and it's just, the technology is so much better, and so I'm quite happy with that. And of course, you can restore the audio settings. Now, one issue I'm going to have here is if I'm going to play some sound for you, I don't want this video being taken down because of copyright laws. So we're going to try and do a few tracks here. We're going to listen to this, and I'll give you some feedback and thoughts on it, and hopefully this doesn't affect the video. This car has superior sound compared to my Mazda, which runs Bose. And of course, I've had Harman Kardon in the BMWs, and I've actually had good experiences with those as well. But I do find that the overall sound experience in this car is very crisp, very good. So it's pretty sharp, like you can feel it. It doesn't have a lot of rattle, and it's pretty impressive. The tweeters are doing their job. The mid is actually quite loud. That is another reason why it's good to have the mid kind of lowered, because it really ends up drowning out the other guys, which is your treble and your bass. For that particular experiment, I had the bass quite loud. So there's no question that this sound system is worth the upgrade. You get a crisp, clear sound. That's really what all these tweeters, of course, do, and all the newer cars are great at that. Where some cars lack, like I did with my Mazdas, the Bose, the bass is just muffled, and it really drowns things out. It's not clear, it's not sharp, it's not different and separate from the mid-range. And that's kind of what you get in this car. It could use more power, and I'm going to do some investigating in other videos and get into that amp and see what I can do. Because if it's an easy swap and switch, then I'll do that. But if it takes a whole new system, these cars don't like it when you play with their wiring and stuff too much. So don't forget to subscribe, guys. Love doing videos like this, and it's your support that allows me to do it. Ciao.